Hi, welcome back to the channel. One of the biggest stories in the global energy market right now isn't actually about oil, it's about refineries. And for Russia, this could hardly have come at a worse time. Ordinarily, when the world starts running short of diesel, gasoline and jet fuel, Russia would be making enormous profits. It has one of the largest refining industries in the world. It has huge amounts of crude oil, and historically, it's been one of the biggest exporters of refined fuels. But today, Russia can't fully take advantage of any of that. Instead of exporting more, it's banned exports. Instead of making record profits, it's now importing fuel. And all of this is happening because Ukraine has spent months systematically attacking Russian refineries. So in today's video, I want to explain why this has become such a serious economic problem for Russia, why the timing couldn't be worse, and why two fascinating charts actually tell us an awful lot about what's happening both inside Russia and across the global economy. So heads up, there's going to be a couple of graphs today for people who enjoy my graphs. Now before we go any further, if you're enjoying my updates, can you please hit that thumbs up button? It really does help the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could hit it, that would be fantastic. And if that hype button is available to you, please press that because it will promote this video. It gives it a little boost with the algorithm and make sure that more people see it. So that would be fantastic. Okay, so let's get into the details. Most people naturally focus on crude oil prices whenever there's a conflict around the world. But crude oil isn't actually what consumers use. You can't put crude oil into your car. Aircrafts don't fly using crude oil. Lorries don't run on crude oil. Power stations can't do anything with crude oil because it has to be refined before anybody can use it. And that's where the real bottleneck has developed. The refining system around the world has been coming under increasing pressure over the past few months. The war in Iran disrupted supplies across the Middle East, and several refineries in the Gulf have suffered disruption and damage. China has reduced refinery throughput dramatically as imports have fallen. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone attacks have repeatedly knocked Russian refining capacity offline. The result is that the world isn't simply short of crude oil, it's becoming increasingly short of finished products. Now let's have a look at this first chart because I think it tells the real story. As you can see, the blue line represents this year's global refinery production. Immediately you can see something remarkable. Global refining activity has fallen significantly below both last year's level and the normal 5-year range. And that is a huge warning sign because the world still needs gasoline and diesel and aviation fuel. Demand hasn't disappeared. The problem is that less fuel is actually being produced. And when supply falls below demand, simple economics tells us that prices will start rising. Now here's the really interesting part from Russia's perspective. Normally, this would represent a massive commercial opportunity. If competitors around the world are struggling, Russia would simply increase its production, export more fuel, earn more foreign currency, generate more tax revenues, and make enormous profits. Happy days. In fact, during the height of the Iran conflict earlier this year, the United States even relaxed sanctions on Russian crude because global markets desperately needed additional supplies. That showed how important Russian energy still is to the global system. So this should have been Russia's moment. But instead, it can't respond because many of its refineries have been damaged or disrupted, and that is an enormous missed opportunity. Now let's move on to the second graph because this makes the situation even worse for Russia. This chart shows refinery profit margins. In simple terms, this is how much money refiners make from buying crude oil and converting it into products like gasoline, diesel and jet fuel. As you can clearly see, these margins have risen sharply. This is exactly the environment every refiner wants. Strong demand, limited competition, high selling prices, excellent profitability. Happy days. But if your refinery is operating today, you're probably making very good money. But Russia isn't able to take advantage of those higher margins. Its refining industry has been operating under constant pressure from Ukrainian drone attacks. Some facilities have had to shut their operations, others have reduced their output, maintenance schedules have been disrupted, and instead of increasing exports, Russia has had to prioritize domestic supply, and that's forced Russia into an extraordinary position. Earlier this month, the Russian government announced a ban on diesel exports, not because demand overseas had disappeared. In fact, It's quite the opposite. Demand is exceptionally strong. The government imposed the ban because it was becoming increasingly concerned about shortages inside Russia. Long queues began appearing at filling stations in some regions. Domestic prices started rising. The government feared a much bigger political problem if Russian motorists and businesses couldn't obtain enough fuel. So exports were sacrificed in order to protect the domestic market. Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak also confirmed that Russia would begin importing fuel during July. If you just think about that for a moment, one of the world's largest energy exporters is now importing fuel, not because it's run out of oil, but because it can't refine the crude oil to usable products. That is a remarkable reversal. Let's not forget that there's also an export ban on gasoline and jet fuel. From Russia's economic perspective, this is a triple blow. Firstly, the physical refinery damage means lower production. You simply can't sell fuel that you can't produce. Secondly, reduced refinery activity means lower economic output. Workers may be paid less overtime, contractors receive fewer orders, maintenance companies lose business, transport companies move less product, regional economies surrounding those refineries are now suffering. And thirdly, Russia is missing out on what should be one of the most profitable refining environments in years. Instead of exporting high-value fuels, it's buying them. Instead of earning valuable export revenues, it's spending foreign currency importing products that it used to sell. Economically, that is exactly the wrong direction for Russia. There's also another consequence that shouldn't be overlooked. Every barrel of crude that can't be refined inside Russia becomes less valuable. Russia can export it, but refined products command much higher values. Every extra stage in the supply chain adds value. Diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, these products generate much bigger profits than simply exporting raw fuel. So every refinery that's damaged doesn't just reduce production, it also reduces the value Russia extracts from every barrel it produces. That ultimately means lower company profits, lower tax revenues, and less money flowing into the Russian economy. Meanwhile, other refiners around the world are benefiting. American refiners, European refiners, some Asian refiners, anyone with available capacity is now enjoying stronger margins because global competition has weakened. That's another hidden cost for Russia. Not only is it losing business, its competitors are taking that business from them. Now, looking ahead, this isn't a problem that disappears overnight for Russia. Refineries are enormously complex industrial facilities. Repairs can take months, sometimes even longer than that. And as long as Ukrainian drone attacks continue, Russia faces the constant risk that repaired facilities could simply be attacked again. At exactly the same time, global demand for refined products is very, very high. That means Russia will continue missing out on billions of dollars of potential revenues whilst its competitors enjoy some of the strongest refining margins seen in years. So the big takeaway from today's video is this. This isn't simply an oil story, it's a refining story. And from Russia's perspective, the timing could hardly be worse. The world desperately needs more gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel, and refiners are making excellent profits at the moment. Ordinarily, Russia would be one of the biggest winners globally, but instead its refineries are under pressure, its exports have been stopped, its domestic market is facing shortages, and it's actually started importing fuel that it would normally export. It's having to pay those higher prices, which is ludicrous. That represents an enormous economic opportunity lost, and if the disruption continues, the financial cost to Russia is likely to keep growing. So hopefully you've enjoyed today's video, you found it useful, informative, and most importantly, thought-provoking. If you have liked what I've said, then please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that hype button if it's available to you. I'd just like to say thank you so much to everybody that's supporting me. If you've bought me a coffee or sent me YouTube super thanks or signed up as a patron or a member, thank you for that support. It really genuinely helps to keep me going. I wouldn't keep doing this without your support. It really does keep me motivated, so thank you so much.